Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo podcast. This is your dose of all things Nintendo. My name is Gemma, and with me this week I have again my good friend Kirk. Welcome back, Kirk.
Good to be here, as always.
As always, good to have you. And we've got a pretty big lineup again this week. We're going to finally close our month-long Halloween celebration since Halloween is it's upon us. It's the end of October. We've been talking about Halloween horror-related titles all month. So we'll culminate that with some more titles and talk this week. We will also do a Mario Wonder update since we've had another week with the game and give our sort of more impressions on what we're enjoying and maybe not enjoying a few other games that are coming out. But we also wanted to start off by saying thank you to our patrons because last week we mentioned we were at 99 subscribers for our magazine, our physical magazine that we do bi-monthly, and we have hit the 100 mark. So I think that is a huge feat, and congratulations to you and the team. Kirk, for doing such a good job. But thank you so much to our subscribers. And the 100th, do we want to mention last week? We mentioned our 100th patron would receive something special. I think now we can reveal what that is, can we, Kirk?
Yes, our 100th our 100th subscriber is going to get a Metal Gear Solid desk pad and coaster set.
Nice. Very cool.
Yep.
And that, of course, that's just come out, right? Metal Gear Solid?
Yes. Yep. It
Yes.
just came
Hmm.
out, and although we acknowledge that this is more for like a PC gamer, because you're not setting your Switch on top of a
Hmm.
on top of a desktop, but Metal Gear Solid Collection is now available for the Switch.
Hmm.
So you can set it up while you're getting your work done throughout the day, and let it inspire you to hop on the Switch and play some Snake adventures in the evening.
Awesome. That's brilliant. Thank you. And yes, thank you to all our subscribers. We love reaching out to you with our physical copies every other month. And we're finalizing our current issue, and you should get it into your hands very soon. So stay tuned. Meanwhile, back to Halloween. It's that time of year, and I just actually quickly wanted to mention this isn't on our list. Sorry, Kirk, I'm sidetracking a little here, but
Oh,
Mario Kart Tour
we're straying from the set list. I'm confused.
already,
I haven't
already
practiced this one.
the solo, and take it, trombone champ. We I've just been playing Mario Kart Tour a lot this year, as you know, and I just wanted to say I love their themes because they do theme their current tours, which they change every sort of week or two. And it's a Halloween tour at the moment, so the characters look really cool. They dress up in pumpkin head outfits and stuff like that. The tracks have they're littered with pumpkins actually that you hit for coins. And if you collect, I think 200 of these pumpkin or they're not pumpkin coins, but if you hit 200 pumpkins, you get a special prize. It's really fun. It's just a nice little touch, I think. So I thought I'd start by saying that. Been
Oh yeah,
enjoying that a lot.
yeah, it sounds fun. It's similar to the Fire Emblem Heroes game that they have out
Yeah.
at this time of year. They take a lot of the characters and dress them up in new Halloween themed costumes. I should say we get a
Mm,
lot of witches and certain things like
mhm.
that, and of course they come with new abilities and power or skills as well. But it's a fun way to get some seasonal summonses in.
Totally. And I keep forgetting to go back to Fire Emblem Engage, actually. Oh, sorry, Fire Emblem Heroes, right?
Heroes, yeah.
That's what's called. Yes. Keep forgetting to go back to that. And yeah, it's actually quite funny to see. I mean, there's sort of a witch peach, which looks kind of cute. But then there's like a vampire Mario, which is a little uh,
Oh yeah.
odd, I suppose. He's got the little pointy teeth. I mean, he's smiling, but what is he really doing? I don't know. Anyway, the first game that I want to talk about is a game that I'm currently reviewing, which is called Sunshine Manor, and it just came out earlier in October, and it's really fun. I'm having a really really good time with it. It's a top down kind of style exploration kind of game with a little bit of combat, but mostly it's about exploring. The premise is that you are trapped in a mansion on Halloween. You're a kid. You knock on this spooky mansion door to get some candy. Well, actually, you kind of there's a history behind the mansion, which I won't go into, but there's a history behind some murders that happened in this mansion, and so your friends dare you to knock on the door, and of course, you get sucked in, and your friends disappear, and you're left all alone in this dark, creepy mansion that's run down and full of ghosts and other interesting creatures. So you part of the game is actually helping the ghosts, which is really cool. So there's a few spirits lingering who are trapped in this mansion, and you have to sort of help them cross over. And there's a lot going on. It seems quite simple at first. It's a very retro inspired kind of 16-bit style, but it looks really cool. There's a lot of blood for a cutesy kind of game.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of music usage in terms of when you're in the mansion. A lot of times there's actually no music, and then something happens and it really startles you. So there's a few jump scares. And then when you actually help the ghosts cross over, you kind of get pulled into an alternate reality where you can see the mansion as it really is in this ghost land. And the ghosts are trapped and they're being held captive and you have to rescue them. And when you're in that world, there's lots of music and it's really cool. It's very not upbeat in terms of happy, but upbeat in terms of fast. Like the tempo is increased and it's really, it's very striking. It's well done. It's set in the 80s, 70s and 80s kind of thing. So it has that vibe to it as well.
Oh, that was a good
Um,
time for horror.
it's yes, yes, totally. So I can highly recommend this game for if you're looking for something different for Halloween, especially. It is out now anyway, but you can all grab it if you want something slightly horrific, but more it's cartoony violence, so it's not too scary. Like I said, a few jump scares. The other cool thing is this one I kind of had heard about already because our friends at Premium Edition Games, this is one of the games they're putting out in physical release next year. So if you're a super fan, you could even get yourself a physical copy of this game. But it is in the eShop right now. I think it's only $7.99. It's pretty good price. And I'm really enjoying my time with it. I'm probably about halfway through in terms of rescuing ghosts. So I'll see how I go with that. It's not too difficult. You kind of have a life meter that depletes as you get hit, but it's very easy to refill. You have kind of this psychic ability that you can attack certain objects, but it's not really about the battles. It's more about, oh, there are some good boss fights though, to be honest, but it's more about exploration, finding keys, finding, items that you can use, like even just rocks and things to throw it. I haven't worked out what this does yet, but I've just been throwing rocks at a rope and a clock that was dangling has fallen and I don't know what that's done yet. So I need to find out what this clock that fell down has done. So it's really cool. It's really, really fun and interesting. A very different kind of style, and I'm loving it. So yeah, that's Sunshine Manor. And my review, hopefully, actually, I'd like to get that out by Halloween. So we'll see how we go. But it should be online very soon, if not by Halloween. What are you currently playing for review in terms of
Uh,
Halloween titles?
well, I have a I have a Halloween title that's a bit more dire than
Yeah.
Sunshine Manor, I guess. My game is called World of Horror. This is an indie game from a publisher. I am not going to be able to pronounce this. Eastbrid Games, YSBRYD.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
it's very much an indie game, but the striking thing about this right away, you'll notice, is that it's all done in basically 1-bit graphics. We are literally
Oh,
looking at a
wow.
black and white game that looked like it was made for the Macintosh SE back in 1987 or 88.
Cool.
So you look at it, you don't think you're going to get that much, but it's a very tricky, very involved game that it's kind of it's a bunch of different things. It has some turn-based combat in it, but it also has like some roguelike elements almost. It very much is exploration. Like you're in this town where a lot of weird things are happening, and you kind of have to solve these mysteries, and the order in which you solve them sort of impacts what you have to solve the other mysteries. Um, but it's very graphic in the
Mm.
horror. Like the first one, there's a tutorial that have you ever seen the Japanese? I don't know if it's a legend or just some kind of strange thing that was going around the internet for a while about the slit mouth woman.
Oh, yeah.
She kind of takes part in this like at the beginning, and so like you'll be going around and it's almost like a text-based adventure where you kind of like you can go into these rooms. So you go into, like, say you're in a school and you decide to go into the library, and it'll say, oh, there's this weird shape, do you want to look at it or not? And then you decide if you do. And it can take away certain elements, like you have strength, you have dexterity, certain things like that, but it either adds to it or takes it away. And so the decisions you make will affect your ability once you get into combat.
Mm,
And
mhm.
combat may be a lot harder if you haven't found a specific weapon. And then it's set up so that you like stack. You have like, let's say 200 action points, and there's certain things you do will push up towards that 200, and then you go, you find out what damage you did, you find out what they did to you, and then it goes back into it. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, it's very unique. I'm not sure if I love it yet. I have to play it a little bit more. And like you, I want to have the review done ahead of Halloween. So hopefully,
Mm.
play it some more this weekend, and then get that review published at least by Monday.
Yeah,
But
nice.
it is certainly interesting. It's very striking. If you're a fan of especially Japanese horror, it very much caters towards that crowd. There are a bunch of sort of, or not a bunch. There are some little hidden Easter eggs in it, as far as like references to other movies that you may have seen. Um, so if you're looking something completely different, definitely give it a look. I will point out that even though it does have these old style graphics and some very basic gameplay, it's still $20. So that's
Oh,
something to
okay.
consider
Mm.
when you're looking at it. But definitely at least give it a look. Provided you're 17 or over, it does have an M17 plus rating,
Right.
for blood and gore, violence, suggestive themes, and language.
Oh, yeah, the graphics look interesting with the black and white kind of aesthetic.
Yeah,
You can still, I was imagining something different, but you can still, obviously, um, get across that, I don't know, gory aspect of horror, even in
yeah.
this black and white realm. So,
Yeah, because
yeah.
they do a really good job. It's not like games actually were back in the late '80s, where everybody's
Mm.
very blocky. There's a lot of detail. People look like people. I mean, just it's complete black and white, no real shades of gray. But they do
Yeah.
a good job of making everyone look right. And most of the action happens. The screen is split up into a somewhat convoluted user interface, and you could tell the game was very much designed for PC, because pointing
Mm.
and clicking is the way you're going to get through it. So as a result, you're using the L stick to move your cursor where you want it to go, and then hitting A to select what you want.
Yeah.
And there are some other interface items there as well. But once you figure out the interface and see where you got to be and what you got to do, it's certainly a very unique experience that does have some genuine jump scares too.
Cool. Interesting. Do the characters move? Like, is it animated or is it all still graphics?
It depends. For the most part, it's just static. But
Mhm.
when you are like when you're fighting somebody, you basically just see the image of the monster, and then you go through your motions. The screen flashes a little bit, and then you're at it. But there are some very interesting and genuinely creepy cutscenes that they do, and those are really cool
Nice.
to watch with this graphic approach.
Cool. Yeah, it just looks different and unique. Yeah, yeah. And I love the name World of Horror. Just
Yeah.
encapsulates everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, and at first
Yeah.
I didn't get it, but yeah, like everything takes place in this town, and there are a lot of things going on in this town. So I guess it could be called Town of Horror, because the people living
Right.
here aren't having a good time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Mm. I should have mentioned the rating on Sunshine Manor as well, probably, but it's just T for teen, blood and
Okay,
violence. It's not quite as graphic as your World of Horror.
yeah,
That
and in
sounds
fact,
very interesting. Mm.
if you check it out in the eShop, just watch the what hooked me on it and made me decide to chase down this review is that the video that they have in place on the eShop does a really good job of showing the creepiness of it. So if you watch
Cool.
that and you're like, yeah, this looks like my kind of horror, then give it a shot.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that looks very cool. I'm interested to hear your final thoughts then when it comes out, when you come up with your review before or around Halloween.
Yep,
Awesome. Thank you.
yep. We'll have competing
Um,
reviews.
yeah, yeah, it'll be Halloween fest. Well, speaking of, I guess, you know, games and Halloween and all of the things related to that. I mean, one of the games that I played last year, I reviewed last year actually. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10. I gave it a really high score. Cult of the Lamb, right? Which was a very cutesy yet horrific game where you play the role of a lamb who runs a cult essentially, and it has two very disparate kind of gameplay elements. One, you're running the cult, and that means it's like a weird version of, I don't know, Animal Crossing, where you just have to deal with different creatures and make sure they have food and shelter and beds and all that sort of thing. And then the other half is this kind of battle element where you go into caves and fight. It's like a roguelike thing where you you journey through and get to the end and fight a monster or a boss and kind of unlock demons, I suppose, which is the main goal of the game. Anyway, point of me mentioning this, which is now a year old, is that it is currently available to play for free just until the 31st of October. So this episode will launch on the 30th. So you've got one day. So if you're listening to this on the 30th, you have a day to jump on and play Cult of the Lamb for free if you have not already. On top of that, there is also a 40% discount. So I can highly recommend checking out Cult of the Lamb. It's a unique gameplay experience. Uh, I was so excited when I was at PAX recently in Australia, earlier October, and they had a Cult of the Lamb stand, which I didn't see until late on day two. I just hadn't wandered into that section. And there's this huge black and red wall with all the characters on it. I'm like, whoa, Cult of the Lamb is here? And it was, and they were it was a pretty light presence, even though they had this big stand. They were mostly just selling badges and showing off the game and talking about the game. So, at the time last year at least it was popular, it got good reviews. So, I'm not sure how many people have picked it up over this year, over the course of 2023. But Halloween is as good a time as any, and since there is a sale, if you were thinking about it, it's a good time to jump on board. Have you played that one? I don't think you had you?
No, no, I have not.
No. Yeah, yeah. It took me by surprise. Yeah, it was very interesting, very fun. My kids played it a little bit. It's not super appropriate for kids, but I mean, the creatures are super cute. Like they are adorable. Like the lamb is cute. I cannot emphasize enough the disparity between the cuteness and the actual story. It's just they've merged these two things together in such an interesting way. So when we saw that there were badges available, we had to buy some, of course. So we got one each, the three of us. There's like a bunny and all sorts. Anyway, Cult of the Lamb. Well, there's quite a few sales to celebrate Halloween on the eShop, and another one that I think you might want to mention was Haunted House.
Yes, yes, and it's a game I haven't played. In fact, I haven't even played the original. Haunted House is an old Atari game,
Oh, cool.
and Atari has, and I mean Atari 2600, from
Hmm.
back in the late 70s, early 80s. So it's that old. Atari has again remade it into a much more ornate uh, adventure game, and this one is aimed at kids. This is an E10 plus with nothing more than fantasy violence and mild language.
Hmm. Cool.
Um, so it's on sale also, which is why I mentioned it since we're talking about Halloween sales. It's 20% off for $15.99 right now through November 1st. So the sale ends right after Halloween. But
Nice.
it's a game with it's kind of a rogue-like adventure. It's got procedurally generated room layouts, and it's very relies very much on stealth. You're not fighting so much as trying to avoid the scary things in this house
Okay.
as you go through and pick up the items. So definitely want to check out, especially if you're into retro games. You had an Atari, your parents had an Atari. Would be a good game, I think, to pick up for some light Halloween fun heading into the holiday.
Yeah, it looks quite nice. The graphics look pretty stylized, almost cartoony.
Yep.
And have you played the original, the Atari version?
If I did, I don't remember it.
Okay.
It was a very long time ago.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes. That's cool. Well, I do, and we've talked about a few games that have been rejuvenated recently, haven't we? This is another one to add to the list, I guess. I know it's not in television, but it's still something.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And there's heaps. If you check out, there's actually quite a few scary titles online. There were a couple I did want to just kind of highlight, which one of them was Fatal Frame that you mentioned last week. Was it the same
hmm
one or was it a different one? Fatal Frame. Because which one were you
the
talking? It
the
was
one that I
Mask of
talked
the Lunar
about, yeah,
Eclipse.
Mask of the Lunar Eclipse is the one I talked about last week. Yep,
Yeah,
that's the
so that's on
latest
sale.
one.
Mm. So that's 30% off. There's a Resident Evil. There's Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Even something like Hotel Transylvania, which I assume is more child friendly.
Yeah.
There's a Batman game. There's quite a few in the list. So every week, Nintendo does update its sales. And yeah, they're calling this one the Screaming Deals. And most of them end on the 31st of October. The one you just mentioned must be a separate sale. But yeah, There's heaps there. You can save up to 50% on some of these titles, even Five Nights at Freddy's, which everyone seems to be talking about at the moment because there's a movie coming out. I haven't
Oh
even tried.
yeah, did that come out today? I think that was released today.
I think so. Yes, I believe so. So that's I don't know much about that. There was a stand at PAX about it, but I kind of just it was very busy and looked cool. People were taking photos, like there was a photo booth with characters and stuff like that.
Oh sure,
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Even Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment is apparently a thing. It's
we're gonna call
70
that a Halloween game now. All right,
apparently. It's 70% off anyway, whatever that is.
okay.
So yeah. It's maybe something for everyone, I don't know. And I mean, to help, players kind of navigate what's out and about in terms of horror games, you have written a very thorough article, which we've already published on our website, purenintendo.com, to cover some of horror titles of this year, right? Of 2023 that we've reviewed. Or
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah, and what I did here is I just rounded up the better games that we reviewed, the
Mhm.
horror games throughout 2023. So again, these are only the ones we played. They're not ones that we say recommend over anything that we didn't touch, of course. But
Mm.
any horror game or creepy game that we thought would be good for Halloween that scored a 7 or 10, a 7 out of 10 or higher on our list
Mhm.
is on here. There are a couple that I've played. One of the ones that stuck out for me is a game called Decarnation, which again is kind of like a pixel based retro style game, but with a really good psychological horror element to it, along with a really solid message. Like it's you really can empathize with the character in this one. As she sort
Mm.
of descends into madness and doesn't know if this is really happening or if this is all in her head. A good psychological terror that works quite well. There are
Wow.
some more interactive or like I don't want to say combat, but there are some elements that are a little difficult to sort of navigate your way through. But the story's definitely worth it. Sticking with that.
Mm. And it has a cool style. It looks really neat, the sort of graphic approach that they've taken. It's very,
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
almost, it's very cartoony, but realistic at the same time. I don't know. It's nice. It looks
Yes.
nice.
Yeah, and they
Mm.
do a good job. Like the color is very vibrant, so it looks like it's a very friendly, family oriented game. But when she descends into more of like the psychological elements of it, it gets really really freaky. Um,
Mm.
and I think that's all done very well. And like you hear that a game is like pixel based or has these retro graphics, but it's very detailed. So even though it does have that old look, it still looks really good.
Mm. It does. It does look really good. And that's actually on sale as well. Gosh, there's a lot on sale. It's
Oh, well,
35% off.
see, yeah, they're smart. They know when people are buying these games.
Yeah, exactly. They do. They know the timing is right. Yeah, so check out that article online for all of our, I guess, recommended reviews. Question for you, Kirk, because I've mentioned before, I actually really enjoy horror movies, not so much horror games, even though I'm enjoying Sunshine Manor. It's not super scary. I don't like those fully immersive ones because it's too much for me. I like to watch other people doing stupid things in movies.
Uh,
But
That's
anyway,
fair.
when I want to watch a horror movie, I check, IMDb, for example, and I look at the rating. And I find that with horror movies, if it's sort of a, you know, 5.5 or 6 or more out of 10, I probably will give it a go. Whereas if it was a comedy, if I 5.5 out of 10 comedy, I'm like, that's probably not very good. But I feel like I'm more generous with horror movies. Like a 6 out of 10 horror movie is probably still decent. Do you think that translates to games? Like, do you think, we've said 7 out of 10 and above. Do you think games is there a little bit of leniency in the grading system when it comes to horrors? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. And I think that does make sense, especially with horror, because if a horror movie is unsuccessful for one person, it's because that person didn't connect with what's supposed to be terrifying about it sometimes.
Mhm.
And other people could. So, there are a lot of people, like, let's say, I'm going to use the Saw movie as an example.
Yeah.
I know that kicked off a whole thing, and there are a lot of rabid fans who love it. I absolutely hated everything about that movie, mainly
Mm.
because I didn't find it scary, but also because
Right.
there were so many. Like, if I stopped and thought about it, I'm like, well, this makes absolutely no sense. Who designed this bathroom? Why is there a bathtub here? How is this
Yeah.
person? I'm not going to go into detail because a
Mhm.
you're going to get me going. Um, but but again, I that's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of people loved it. So, if with horror, I think that if something does score like a 5, 6 or whatever, sometimes it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that's not what people want out of their horror. So,
Mm. Hmm,
I
good
do think
point.
there is wiggle room there for these.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, interesting. Saw, yeah, we won't go into that, I guess. I quite like the first one. I thought it was clever, but anyway.
Oh, well, it's
Me-
sometime when we're not making people listen to us, let's have a conversation about that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, so okay, well, let's move on to Mario Wonder. So
Oh,
this one has oh, sorry, are we done with horror, or do you
oh
have more?
yes,
Do you want
yeah,
to add?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm
So
enjoying the jump from horror to Mario to Wonder.
yes, quite different approaches in style. Obviously, Mario Wonder is a very new approach for Mario, and it is wonderful. It is, not just fresh for the series, but it's very colorful. There are talking flowers. Actually, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about as well, which I'm going to add. But yeah, basically, it's very different to to a horror themed game. And excuse me, first of all, I did want to say that, I mean, we know that the reviews have been good, but the sales are now coming. The sale numbers are sort of coming out, and I read during the week that it's broken some records in Europe. It's become, I think, it's the fastest selling 2D Mario game in Europe, and that was after
Hmm.
3 days of sales, which is really cool. And the physical sales data for Japan also came out. I think they moved 638,000 odd physical copies, which is a lot. So it was top of the Japanese charts for that week, October 20th, whatever it was. And I mean, I'm very interested to know how many digital copies were moved and how it's sort of going overall. But that's a lot of physical copies. Um, yeah, what do you think about the sales data? Do you have any extra sales there, or is that kind of it? I think that's all I saw of it.
Yeah,
Did you
I,
notice
I
anything else?
yeah, I didn't notice anything else. I'm not surprised by it. I think right now there is a little bit of a lull in games. So anybody who's looking
Mm,
to purchase a big AAA style game, this is it. And I do think they did a really good job of showing how fun it is in the videos. Like I think I
mm,
mentioned when we had the first um, reveal, I wasn't that into it, but then they had another like a 5 minute trailer that came out about a month or so later. And then watching that, I'm
hmm.
like, I think I might enjoy this one. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, I think they did a good job of selling it, and I also feel that there are a lot of players who enjoy this kind of simpler. And I don't mean the game is all that simple, but the mechanics of it, of moving and doing what you're supposed to do. There's not a lot of complex button uh,
Yeah.
uses. What's the word I'm looking for?
Mm.
Chains. I don't know.
Yeah, like there's some games that use every button, on the
Yeah,
controller. This one is really just running and jumping and
yeah,
maybe using a power or two. But yeah, essentially it is a simpler style. And I mean that's because it started off on the NES, which had two buttons, right? You could only jump
yep.
and shoot fireballs, which also made you run faster. That same button. So yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
a lot of people who played the older games, they can look at it and say, "Oh, yeah, I know how to do this. I've done this. It's just a prettier
Mm.
version of what I've done before." And of course, there's more to it than that, but that's more inviting to people who may not hop onto the like say the Mario Galaxy games that just look more complex from the start.
That's true. Yeah. So yeah, it's doing really well, which is awesome. I think the feedback I've seen online, the reviews, etc., has been very positive, which I'm really happy about because and Nintendo even mentioned something about this because we've got a new voice actor for Mario and Luigi, and I think it was Doug Bowser who said something like, when he was asked why was Nintendo so secretive about the new voice actor, and he said, we wanted the players to concentrate on the game. We didn't want to just distract people from that, you know, because it could have been very distracting. It could have been focusing very much on the loss of, the voice, the loss of Charles. He's still alive. Don't get me wrong, but he's moved on from voicing Mario and Co. And now we have a new actor, Kevin Afghani, and so I get that. I mean, I don't think they wanted to focus too much on that. They wanted to focus on the gameplay. Like you said, that trailer kind of spoke for itself and encouraged people. Um, yeah, and I'm having a great time with it. I've been playing it a fair amount during the week with my kids, and I even started my own profile on top of that because I also enjoy playing Mario one player style. So I had to do it again. because the kids are very much like pushing, let's push forward. Whereas I'm like, I want to collect all the things. I need to get those 3 coins in every level. I want to, get all the badges. So kind of two ways of playing there, but we're probably, I don't know how far through it we are. We've got 3 out of 6 royal seeds. So I suppose you could say we're halfway, but we've opened up a few, I think all of the worlds. We just haven't finished them. So, I mean, do you know how you're traveling in terms of percentage wise, I guess, roughly? Are you
Percentage wise, I couldn't say. We're not as far as you are. We only have one seed. We have opened up 2 worlds,
okay?
and mainly have been focused on making sure that we've acquired everything that we can acquire in the worlds we're on. So if we get
Ah,
through and we don't have everything, we're like, well, let's
hmm,
not advance till we can, till we're at least good enough
yes.
to get all these items.
So that's the way that I wanted to play as well. Okay. So yeah, I'm not doing it that way with my kids, but that's okay. That's okay. We are having a ton of fun though, honestly. And I kind of mentioned last week after very few levels that it was pretty easy. And it does start off easily. And I mean, that's kind of the way it is with Mario games. The first worlds are generally straightforward and simple. And with a new game like this, I suppose they're teaching you different mechanics. But I have to tell you, there's some hard levels coming up for you, Kirk.
Oh
There's
boy.
yeah, there's quite a few that we've had trouble with. Not trouble, we've died though, which hasn't happened previously because when you're playing, at least with other people, you become a ghost and you can rescue them and you don't lose a life. So we've lost lives. Let's just say that.
Okay. Well, we've lost lives on the first world, so
Okay,
we're in a world of
fair
hurt.
enough.
We're in a world of horror.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it was also when they sort of announced the game and they showed things like badges, I was a bit, I don't know about the badges. I don't know if I really want help with Mario. I just want to do it myself. I've come around on the subject. I quite enjoy the badges because I was worried they'd feel a bit like cheating, and they don't. And I'm interested in your thoughts on this as well. They're really useful, and mostly they're just enhancements of like jumping or something, or getting coins from enemies, or starting with, and we'll talk about our favorite ones, but one of the ones I really like is just starting the level with a super mushroom. So you start big instead of small. That's really handy. It's maybe that is a little bit cheaty, but I mean, usually you get a question mark early on in the game anyway. Do you have what's kind of your favorite badge and so far?
I don't know if I've used enough. I will say the one I use the most, so I'll say it's my favorite, is the one, like you said, it's the jumping enhancement where you can float down.
Hmm.
And that's largely because it allows me to miss things. I mean, and not get punished for it. Like if I were jumping and wasn't going to properly execute the jump, it helps me get there. Sometimes it
Hmm.
makes me feel a little too confident. I'm like, yeah, I could float over there and find I certainly did not stand a chance of floating over there. So it
Yeah,
it can come back to bite me, but that's the one that I use the most, and I think I'm the most comfortable with for now.
it is really handy. Yeah, it feels a bit like Princess Peach's power in previous games. She could kind of
Yes,
float.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. There's another one which you may or may not have unlocked, which is similar, and it's called the floating jump, I think. Floating high jump, which is a bit like Luigi's usual weird kicking leg jump that he does. You know how he kind of jumps in a bigger arc than Mario
yes,
in some games, yes. It's like that. And so you can turn that on and you kind of have a bigger jump without the floating side of things, but just a generally a bigger jump. So that's also somewhat useful in some levels. Um, the dolphin one is good for swimming, I guess. Like that one's makes swimming easier if you've had that one yet. That's a nice one. You just kick through the water. I haven't really used it much. It's annoying, of course, if you aren't in a water level, that serves absolutely no purpose. So,
yeah, and
yeah.
that's what I thought about the badges too. You mentioned that it's getting harder, and I think one of the things we like is as we play through and we're having difficulty getting something, then we could say, all right, well, let's go back and try it with this badge or something like that to see if that does uh, facilitate getting everything
Mm.
that you need.
Yes, and has that worked for you?
It did once. I can't give you the exact example. I can't remember what the one was, and of course, it was when we were playing with Sam, and he was the one who pointed out, "Why are you wasting your time? We got to go back and get this." Like, oh yeah, okay, that would make sense, and then we do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there's just so many. There's, what is it, 24, I think. So I've only got, gosh, about maybe half of them. which means I have a lot more to uncover and discover and try out. Um, yeah, so it's interesting because I know the game. I didn't feel like it was going to be a long game, and I mean, I haven't spent 20 hours or anything on it, but definitely, especially if you're doing it the way you are, going back and you're making sure you've covered everything. There's quite a lot of time to spend and gameplay to do in this game. Do you agree with that?
Yes, yeah, especially with all the side missions, we'll call them, that you get to do
Yeah.
instead of just pushing through the worlds. There are just a ton of challenges to pick up and try and get better and better at it. Some of them are like timed. You could do it, try to get this done within like I was trying to think one of them maybe was 70 seconds.
Oh,
In order to get
yeah, that was yes, another one. Yep.
yeah, so executing all those to the best of your ability is going to take some time and some practice. So there's an awful lot to go back to
Mm.
if you're a completionist along those lines.
Yes, totally. We did that one a couple of times actually, because the first time we didn't know, I guess, about the time limit, and what that would give us. And the first time we didn't it was the first one of those. So it's like I think you have 3 kinda areas you have to run through and defeat all the enemies before you can progress to the next
Yes,
area, right?
yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple of those, so there's more of those to come if you've only done the first one. They're fun. I'm quite enjoying these little distractions or what did you call them? Side quests? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure
Yeah.
that's not accurate, but that's what I'm a JRPG guy, so
Yeah.
the
No,
terminology
that's
sticks.
it makes total sense to me, honestly. I like it, I like it, and, we talked about the Wiggler race last week. Have you done any more? Because there are a few to do.
Nope, just that one.
Okay, we'll look forward to more of those. I think we've done 3, so maybe each world has one, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
And they get progressively harder. But you know how each level has, like, a star rating? And, early on, it's like 1 or 2, maybe 3 stars.
Mhm.
We've seen up to 5 stars, so we have seen found some trickier levels that have 5 stars. So, yeah, there's I don't wanna spoil things for anybody who hasn't finished the game or is still working through it and wants to find things out on their own, but I will say there is a world dedicated to, harder levels. Let's just say that. So and we have stumbled upon this world, so yeah, look
Well,
forward to
okay.
that. Yeah.
I won't. I'm not looking forward to that. I'll get in and I'll try it, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the talking flowers then, because I've also read online, some people love them, some people hate them. I'm fine with them. And I like that you can kind of, if you wanted to, you could turn off the voice. You don't have to listen to it. There's a few options there. Did you notice that?
I was wondering if you had the option to switch the language.
Ooh, I think so. I thought I saw someone online said they changed it to Japanese just because it sounded, interesting and funny to hear the flowers yell in Japanese.
Yeah.
So I believe
I'll
so. Yeah.
I'll seek that out.
Yeah, give that a go and let me know. But do you find them okay? Like some people are just like, I hate the flowers. I turn them off straight away. Whereas I'm like, they're cute. They're cool. I don't know. I don't mind them.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not interfering with anything. I don't think
Yeah.
I thought about them one way or another. Oh, there was one time they kind of like help you out, like you run past it, and the flower's like, "There's something not quite right here." I'm like, oh, all right. What am
Yeah.
I missing? I gotta find something to do.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I like that, but no, otherwise, like they're kind of cheering me on. It's like you're running a marathon and you've got relatives or somebody just every mile
Yeah.
or so, kind of giving you that extra push you need.
That is a cool way to look at it. I love that kind of analogy. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to think of that from now on because they do. They cheer.
That's right.
They're like, go, go,
Yeah,
go sometimes. Yeah. I like them. I think they're
yeah.
cute.
They should
Anyway.
toss you a water bottle.
Yeah, they should. Instead, we're tossing water on them, aren't we? Sometimes as the
Sometimes we are.
elephant.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. Um, so you're not too far into it, but do you have a favorite wonder moment so far? Because they vary quite a lot. And again, there's some hard ones coming up as well, but they're very fun and different. But is there one that stands out to you so
I
far?
think so far it's still the one that I think we mentioned last week with you kind of like had that herd of
Mm, hmm.
whatever they were, and you're jumping on their backs and riding along the backs like that old Sunset Riders video game I
Yeah.
used to play at the arcade.
Yeah.
That's my favorite so far, still. But we'll see what's ahead.
Hmm. There's one that I enjoyed where you turn into Goombas. That was quite fun. So the 3 of us were playing and we were suddenly Goombas. And you can run. and you can't really jump. Goombas don't jump, so they have a very, very short jump. So you're kind of stuck and you have to kind of navigate the area as a Goomba. The enemies still attacked you, as well, some of them did. So in particular, I think they're called Mormors, the ones that you would have seen in the trailer that open their mouths very high to swallow you, right?
Okay.
They yeah, and they run really fast. They're kind of, annoying, not in a bad way. I don't dislike them. They're challenging, let's say that. And especially when you're a Goomba because you can't outrun them. You just a little Goomba who can't shoot fireballs, you can't jump on them, you're just running. That's all you can do. You can hide behind bushes, so you kind of have to run from bush to bush and hopefully, get past these Mormors. And that was probably my favorite. That was quite fun. The other ones I really like, there's a couple of them that do this where and there's one early on that I'm sure you would have done where Starmans are raining down. The invincibility stars are raining down.
Oh, I did
On
do that
Yeah.
one. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And the early one, I think you have to chase that skedaddle guy. There's another one later on, I can't remember what you're doing in that one, but there's stars again. And I just love running and being invincible. And it's just, yeah, it's just super fun.
Yeah, the embarrassing thing about that is when the level started and I'm jumping and I'm trying to get as many stars as these can, it never even occurred to me that I was invincible. I thought the whole point
Yeah.
was this: I got to get as many as possible, and then it's like, wait a minute, why am I
Yeah.
trying to avoid these guys? Like,
Yeah, I can run into them now.
yeah, chalk it up to inexperience.
Yeah, yeah, that's all good. There's some really cool moments. There's some. I don't know if you're familiar with these little creatures. I don't know what they're called. They look like mini piranha plants, and they're kind of black, and they just sit there chomping. And you cannot do anything. You can't shoot them with fireballs. You can't run on them. I think Yoshi might be able to run on them, but Mario can't run on them. If you have a Starman, you can run across them. But for the first time ever, as far as I know, you can defeat them with something, and the something is a power block. So there's a level later on where you grab a power block and you throw out these little black, little nippy piranha plant thingies. They they get busted up. So that was cool. I don't know if that's a new mechanic or not, but maybe I've never been put in a situation where I've had a power block and I've had these little creatures next to a power block. So I thought that was kind of fun as a Mario fan who's been playing Mario for many years and always hated those little dudes because you just can't do anything with them. Anyway, that was, something I enjoyed. And there are
Cool.
a lot of yeah, I thought it was cool. There's a lot of new enemies. So I've mentioned the Mormors, the Skedaddles. Has there been any that have stood out to you for better or worse? Like, do they annoy you? Do you like them? What's your thoughts?
The things I don't like because it takes me a minute to figure out how to get them. It's like they're giant onion stalks or something.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
like
Mhm.
with the or like mushrooms, just elongated mushrooms. They're very tall. Um,
Yes.
and they were
Mm.
the ones that were giving me so much trouble when I was racing the centipede guy. That
Yes.
getting stuck behind them, and if you touch them, you die. Like maybe I think if you hit them on top, then you're okay. But if you run into the stalk,
Yeah.
then
Mhm.
you die. So they're very annoying to get around. They come in too many different sizes, and
Mhm.
I'd say they're
And
my least favorite so far.
yeah, yeah, I could agree with that one.
And are they new to
Um
this game, or is there something that's been around before?
I believe they're new. Yeah, they're like the really tall, thin things, right? And are you
Yes,
also tall and thin at this point, or no? Because there's a level
uh,
where you become tall and thin. I think it's another wonder power.
that may be another wonder. I think I was just normal sized when at least
Mm,
during the race, in a couple areas
yeah.
where I may have encountered them.
Yes. Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of those. Yeah. They serve their purpose. I guess they're there to make things tricky for us.
Yes.
Um, the other one that is kind of tricky, I suppose, is there's a bird. What is it called? The condart, I think, which darts down or across, actually. They just like they look like darts. They're birds, but they look like darts, and they just fall from the sky or from the ceiling and just hit the ground. So you have to kind of watch for them, or they go across. There's sometimes you have to navigate a level where you're kind of going up I don't know, like a mine or something, but the conducts go across, and you actually can jump on them, but then I think they respawn because you kind of need them sometimes to jump off really to reach other levels. So they're interesting, but they're sometimes a little tough to avoid. Yeah, you may not have come to those yet, but you'll see them
Okay.
soon.
Well, now I'm
Yeah.
prepared.
Yes. Be prepared. Have you made it to the drill power up yet? Because I think last week we did talk about the elephant suit, and had we reached the bubble suit last week? Maybe just.
I think you have. I had not, um,
Hmm.
and I don't think I have yet. Or if I have, I didn't use it.
Okay. Yes. Well, I've got all three now, and I have to admit, for me, because in the trailer I was a bit like, the bubble suit looks kind of meh. It's really cool and very useful, actually, especially in multiplayer mode. You might want to try this with your family because if you have the bubble suit, you can jump off the bubbles, obviously. And when there's like two or three or four of you, it gives you more chances to get across gaps or past enemies. If one of you makes it, then you kind of all make it, right? So it's a little somewhat easier with multiplayer. But yeah, the bubble power up is more fun than I expected, I suppose I could say. And the drill power up is really fun. We did try that during the demo, I suppose, and we've seen it in the trailer. But yeah, if you get your hands on the bubble suit, I would love to know if you agree with that.
All right. I'll make it my
Yeah.
mission.
And we kind of talked about the easiness of it. I think I'm gonna retract what I said last week that I was thinking it was too easy because it's not. Some levels are very easy. Excuse me, and you may or may not have noticed this also, but some wonder effects are over very quickly, and I feel like I would like them to go on a bit longer. So, and there's a couple of boss fights. I guess I would say I'm maybe disappointed in the boss fights, and you probably haven't reached. You would have fought Bowser Jr.,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, we did
Yes,
beat him.
and he was fine. But there's another boss fight you'll do. I won't say what it is, for spoilers, but it seems hard, and then it's actually really easy once you know what to do. So I'm kind of disappointed that it didn't last longer, I guess, is my feedback. But it looks great and the mechanics are great and it's fun. It's just quite simple. And maybe that is because there are three of us, so we have three chances to do the thing you need to do to defeat this boss. Whereas if it's one person, there's no one to bring you back to life, right? So yeah, might be different.
Okay.
Um, yeah, my only kind of gripe, I suppose, and it's not really even a gripe, it's just some sometimes it finishes sooner or quicker than I would like, but there's plenty to do, like I said, and definitely enjoying my time with it. But do you have any, I mean, at this kind of early stage, any gripes that you have found?
I don't know if I would call this a gripe, so much as an observation. I think I
Hmm.
played it on my own, and it was fine. I had fun with it. I played it with just my wife, just two people, and I thought that was perfect.
Hmm.
We were able to communicate. We're on the same page. We're moving around. There's not so much going on that it gets too confusing or like losing track of who's who or what's going on. When we did it with three, and I've mentioned this a few times, just because Sam plays it differently from us, that it started to get a bit disjointed. Uh,
Hmm.
the actual gameplay of it, and of course that's on us. It's not on the game. But I think that once you start to get three people, four people, there's so much going on in so many different directions people can go to do different things that I can't even imagine that it's going to be as easy to do with that many people
Hmm.
because there's too much separation. You're jumping to get somewhere. Someone doesn't stops the screen from moving, so you end up getting caught and you
Yeah.
fall because you weren't able to go forward, and that kind of happens all the time. And then it just
Yes.
becomes a, why are you doing? Get up here. Not that our family's fighting. We're a very chill group of people, the Heiners. Um, but
Oh, that's.
it sort of loses its multiplayer fun for us if you get too many
Mm.
players.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a fair point, and we've struggled a little bit. We're used to playing Mario with three players, or even four players when we have a fourth player, but currently it's just my kids and myself, and there are three of us. And we have had issues where my eldest likes to forge ahead. I like to explore every nook and cranny. And if he's and I don't know who gets the crown in the games because that seems to change. And the crown on the player's head means the screen moves with them. But it's not player one. It seems to vary depending on
Yes, yeah, I've noticed that
something.
too.
I can't figure out what it is. I know if you have the crown and then you die or become a ghost, you lose that and someone else becomes the crowned hero, but I don't know what else, whether it's how many coins you collect or how well you've done in the previous level. Not sure. But anyway, we the last time we played, which was probably 2 days ago, we did a lot better. We were communicating much more. We were waiting for each other and helping each other out a lot more. So it seemed to work. It just works a lot better when you're playing that way. I think it's meant to be done that way because it's not really a competitive. It can be played competitively, but it's nowhere near as much fun. Like I find it quite frustrating when someone goes ahead. I'm like, wait, stop! I'm about to fall off the edge. Stop, stop, stop. Or I want to see what's up there. It looks like there's a secret. So
Yeah, and then you try to go
mm,
back and you can't.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I've definitely noticed that as well, and that is a good observation. Yeah, so 2 probably is a good balance. I haven't played 2 very much because it seems to always be the 3 of us or me.
Oh,
So
you know,
yeah.
one thing I do like
Mm,
about the way they do that, that since we mentioned going back, is that you're passing and you see that there's something you're supposed to get, and you're sitting there for a minute trying to figure it out, and then you
mhm.
go forward just like half a screen, and something happens that causes whatever you were wasting your time trying to get to suddenly now be completely available to you. Um,
Yes.
I like the way the game teases you like that throughout.
Yes, definitely. And you'll be pleased to know I did move some pipes because you mentioned last week you moved pipes, and
Ah,
I
yes.
had not done that. That's super fun. And what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought there. But no, I did move the pipes. That was cool. Think it's have you played any levels where you're actually in the background or the foreground as opposed to that kind of middle play area?
Yes, I've gone to the background. I didn't do anything to come up into the foreground. In fact, that was one of
Yeah.
my favorite early discoveries was seeing like, oh, there are pipes back there. That'd be fun to. And then suddenly you
Mm.
go in a pipe and you're in the clear back of the screen. While
Yes,
the
that's
other
a
person was in the front. How cool would that have been to play on the 3DS?
oh, yeah. Oh, that would have been very cool, actually. Yeah, I would have loved that. There's a few more of those, so you'll see a few more where you get to go into the background. I've only seen one foreground, and I believe it was during a Wonder event, but it was optional. You didn't have to do that. I think it was a pipe that I randomly went down, and I appeared in the foreground. That was really cool though. It was like a nice little surprise. I'm like, "Oh, hey, I'm in the foreground."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I have to admit, even though it's fairly, I mean, Mario, I think Paper Mario has done that before, where they've had the background kind of thing.
Hmm.
It does remind me of, I think, Mutant Muds. Is that what it's called? That platformer game from. They had that foreground. They had that 3 levels of areas, quite a bit in their platformers back on the DS or 3DS. I can't remember. So it reminds me of that a little bit, but it's really cool. It's a really neat feature that I really like. Any other comments on Super Mario Brothers Wonder from you?
I don't think so. I need to dig into it more. I am going to be reviewing it. So now that I've wrapped up some other reviews that I had before that one came in, and I'm pushing through
Mm.
those and can dedicate more time, then I'll play it with earnest. So I'm sure I'll have much more to say next week.
Sounds good. Well, I mean, we're almost at the end of the show. There are a couple of other little titles that have been out this week that we wanted to highlight. One being Mario Party 3, which is now available on the Nintendo Switch Online. So this is a Nintendo 64 title originally. I don't remember. We were talking about this before the show, but I don't remember if I've actually ever played this ever, like on the N64 or not. All the early Mario Parties kind of blend into one for me because I really didn't get into it until probably Mario Party 8, like properly. Do you
Yeah.
remember Mario Party 3 at all?
That's not one I played, but since my first Nintendo system was the GameCube, then I
Mhm,
think the first one I played would have been Mario Party 5 or 6. I think it was 5.
mhm.
Um,
Cool.
So yeah, I need to go back and I do like the Mario parties, although they're kind of up and down as far as to
Yeah.
how much I like them.
Oh,
There
yeah.
hasn't been one I've ever hated, so yeah, we'll bust this out sometime and play through it.
Mm.
At
Yeah,
least
they're
for
good
one
fun.
big party evening.
Yeah, definitely. They're all good. They are good. They're different. They are a bit up and down, like you said. The mechanics they change a little bit, or some are very easy or hard, or the AI can be annoying.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I think maybe it's more fun with 4 people as opposed to like 2 and 2 AIs or something like that, or 3 and 1 AI. We always kind of gang up on the computer character. If it's like the 3 of us playing in a 4-player game, we'll give it someone we don't like I don't know. It sounds mean, but Waluigi, I don't know why. We just make him a I don't dislike Waluigi, but he looks villainous. So we make him someone we don't love. Like we would make it Yoshi, someone cute, right? We make it someone who we don't mind beating. Uh, Makes sense.
Okay, that's and of course I almost always pick Waluigi when he's available.
Oh, do you? Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I know there are some people who love Waluigi, so nothing against Waluigi. I'm a fan. He just happens to be our go-to if he's
No,
available
that's
in my party. Yeah.
totally fair.
Wario would be the other one, I guess, but yeah. Another title that came out this week, or is it out? I think it's just come out. If not, it's out very shortly. Is Dave the Diver? I'm just gonna check the date on that one. I think it's available now. Yes, it is. So excuse me. So this was one that was kind of part of the Nintendo Direct that we had. Was it in September? I don't know.
Yeah,
One
it
of the
was
games that's yeah, and it's coming out to the Switch. I think it's a PC game first, like a Steam game that's now on the Switch, and then it will hit other consoles. But Switch is kind of the first exclusive console release of this game, and it looks super interesting. It's always it's been highly praised on the PC, uh, and I will be doing a review on this one. I haven't had a chance to start it yet. I've only just got this one recently, but I will be checking it out in more detail. I did check out the demo, so I have got some experience. It's a mix of genres, I suppose, because you're an underwater explorer. You catch fish and make sushi, and so there's menus to be created and restaurants to run and exploration to be done underwater. So it's very interesting kind of mash of ideas. And yeah, like I said, it's been highly praised previously, so I'll see how the Switch version pans out. But that's another one that just come out on the eShop. So if you were waiting for that one, it's available now. If you liked the demo, you might want to grab the full release. Otherwise, feel free to wait for our review, impending review.
Did you play the demo at all?
Yeah, I did. I didn't finish it, but I did give it a go. Yeah.
Okay.
And did
Does it
you
do a
try it?
good job? I haven't. I was wondering if it does a good job of really setting up just yeah, like how the different elements of gameplay come together because after watching the trailer and reading it, it's hard for me to even wrap my head around how these elements come together. So I
Yeah,
would like to know if the
totally.
demo illustrates that effectively.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good intro to the game. Like I said, I haven't finished it, but you do meet people and there's a lot of talking and stuff, and it's interesting. It's just such a, and I mean, the style is also very unique. It's kind of that if it's cell shaded, it's very animated, but kind of that flat animation. I don't know how you describe it. It looks really cool though. Yeah, I think it does give you a good intro to what to expect, without sort of being too much, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but we'll see how the full game lives up to that kind of reputation that it's already that precedes it. Yeah. Anything else out this week that we wanted to highlight, or is that just about it? What else? I mean, there's always a long list of games, but those ones stood out. I know there's Just Dance 24 is out, which is always a big one. I think we somehow end up playing that on Christmas Day after our big Christmas lunch. We seem to be someone has got Just Dance of the year, and we do some dancing.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't. You know how I feel about those games where I don't like the music that's
Hmm.
included,
Hmm.
so it's hard for me to get up
Yeah.
and dance to songs I don't like. But speaking of getting up and dancing,
Hmm.
there is a new Hello Kitty rhythm game that just
Oh
came out.
yes. Hmm.
That I think I'm going to be reviewing, not because of a love for Hello Kitty so much, but because I tend to enjoy rhythm games. It's Hello Kitty and Friends Happiness Parade, I
Hmm.
believe is what it's called. So and that it does involve motion with the Joy-Con as well, so you can get up and move instead of just hitting buttons as you're apparently walking through this parade. So there's an option for you too.
Yeah, that sounds super cute. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think about that one actually, because it's been one that's been I think it was postponed a little bit. So uh
Yes,
I'm sorry
yeah,
again
and
every week. Yeah,
who
sorry.
better to review a Hello Kitty game than the 50-year-old man with kids in college and nobody even old enough to really follow Hello Kitty.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, and I mean it goes completely opposing our horror theme that we had at the beginning of the show. So
Well, I
yeah.
guess it depends on how you look at it. I
Yeah,
mean, the
true,
Teletubbies
true.
weren't horror, but they could be if you looked at it a certain way, right?
Yeah. They were certainly jarring. Yes, and I have to say sorry if you hear these loud noises in the background. My dog is once again snoring on my lap, so I'm sorry.
Perfect. We should make that like some kind of theme or an intro. That's our calling
Oh, we
card is the snoring
should.
dog.
Yeah, every week without fail. And she when she jumped on my lap, I'm like, "Oh, please don't snore," but here we are.
You know, that's
Uh,
when we know to wrap it up.
we do. Yes. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we do wrap things up?
Oh no, no, I think the snoring was perfectly timed.
Yes. Her name is Lego, by the way, which is, I think,
Lego,
Lego the
nice.
dog. Yeah, very cute. Because we love Lego, the toy as well as the dog. So thank you, listeners, for joining us again this week. We hope you enjoyed the show. As we said at the beginning, we do have a magazine that we love putting out every other month. You are not too late to jump on board for this month's edition. If you head on over to patreon.com/pure Nintendo, you can grab yourself a copy and support us. If you like what you hear, please also, there's the snoring. If you like what you hear, please give us a review on any of the podcasting channels or on YouTube. We'd love to have your support there as well. Leave us a comment. If you ask us a question on YouTube, we will answer it in the following week. Also, I have to mention quickly before we go, we're going to take a break next week, actually. So we will be back in 2 weeks. Next week is a week off for us. So yeah, we'll see everyone again in 2 weeks' time with another episode of the Pure Nintendo podcast and all things Nintendo. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, listeners. Until next time, game on, everybody. Bye.